Hey everyone, welcome to the Growin Up Podcast. We're your hosts. My name is Amber,
And my name's Nevaeh.
and we are finally back.
Yeah, after a long time, long break, good sabbatical.
Yeah, it's been a while. We it first started off as a break just for the winter holidays for Christmas, and then the new year started, and you know how that goes. It's just like a new fresh, but it's also kind of overwhelming because at least for me, I go to school, so my semester started up as soon as the new year hit, so it was like readjusting back to doing multiple things in the school life and having to dedicate some time to that. So I mean, no
Yeah,
excuses, but that's kind of how it went.
that's exactly how it went for myself as well.
Um, well, we're excited to be back, and hopefully, we can kind of get this cadence going, like we had imagined it the first time. Spoiler alert: we're going to be finishing up our graduate program, both of us. So that means that we'll have more time that we hope
For sure.
to be able to dedicate to this, and looking forward to that. And I can see it on the horizon. We're almost there.
That's super exciting. It flew by for sure. And I'm super excited to at least be able to have a normal job and come home and not have to continue to work while I'm home. So definitely a lot more time, a lot more things coming. Um, Super
True.
exciting.
Be careful what you wish for. Having a real job. Just kidding. um,
uh,
No, but that's valid. I guess you have a good point because with school, like you're constantly having to be checked in. Whereas like a work, if you have a healthy balanced work, you should be able to go home and forget about work and have that rest of that time to yourself, which I think is something that I'm excited about also. And I can't wait. I miss having time.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think for me it was maybe even now I haven't been studying as much. I
Hmm.
haven't been studying as much, so that's kind of been a load off of me. And so I'm still gonna have to study for MCAT and stuff like that. But at least for a couple months, I'll have a good I can go home, have a routine, and stick to the routine. So that's what I'm excited for. Um, But yeah, first episode back into the new year. So happy New Year's from the Growin Up Podcast to you. And I hope your New Year's resolutions are still going. What was
True.
the day? There's a designated day. It's where people, you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen
Give up
that?
on their New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
And January 2nd.
No, no, there's literally a day. It was it showed that at this time is when most
Hmm.
people give up on their New Year's resolutions. I don't know. I remember
Yeah.
I seen it on TikTok or something like that.
Um, the second Friday in January is also known as Quitter's Day, when people are most
Yes,
likely to throw in the towel on their resolutions.
exactly. Yep, that's the one.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
That's way sooner than I thought it would be. I thought like maybe February 1st or something.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, what's a New Year's resolution that you've kept up to this day?
I've actually done a couple of them. So journaling was the top thing on my list, and I've actually been pretty consistent with it. Running, I have definitely been in a running mood, which is awesome, and I feel like it's
Nice.
stuck to my schedule, and that it's exciting because I feel like I'm at that point where I've done it for so long that now I feel like it'll hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood,
Yeah.
stick. So that's exciting. Being outdoors more, and I guess that kind of goes with running, but we've been taking the dogs out more. So that's been fun. So I'm actually super proud of myself so far. So we'll check back in I don't know, March. We'll see then. So
Right.
that yeah. How about you?
Um, well, what it, my one resolution that I'm actually proud of to this day is that I haven't drank alcohol yet. So I've been
What?
alcohol free since January 1st. Yeah, it's like what, 40 days ish, 41 days.
That's awesome. Proud of you.
Yeah.
Do you
Y-
plan to stick that out?
I don't know. I see, I've done this, I think it was 2018 18 was the last time I went like a whole year without alcohol. But I think one thing that one of my friends told me, friend slash coworker, she was telling me that like she only drinks 5 times a day or 5 times a year. So she like tries to be very like specific about when she's gonna drink and like when she's gonna use that. So I think that's maybe what I might do is just like choose those specific moments where I kind of, want to celebrate or hang out with friends and pride is one of those. So I know we were just talking about that before this, but that's one of those times where I'm like, maybe that's a good time. But yeah, so we'll
That's
see.
awesome.
I'm still thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Like I was telling Amber before this that like I had a couple of margaritas, 2 margaritas, and I haven't like also drank like gone out, I guess, as much as like I used to. And man, oh man, let me tell you, that was something. But so props to you. Hopefully, your first time drinking again isn't hit you. hit you.
True. I was so our dad came to visit over the weekend, and he's also been kind of like on this alcohol free journey. I don't know what he calls it, but he's not drinking. And we were talking, and he was telling me that he tends to drink a lot more soda. And I was like telling him that lately I've been really addicted to like Red Bulls, and I think that's like part of that getting away from alcohol. Like you're trying to lean into something else. So I'm like really trying not to drink Red Bulls, but it's hard because I think it's just that that urge to open something up, or drink
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard because I was telling AJ this because he drinks like a lot of Pepsi.
Mhm.
And I don't really like drink soda like that. Like I'll drink like a soda every like when I crave a soda, I guess, but it doesn't happen too
Yeah,
often. But when we go to the grocery store, he's like, "Okay, well, what do you want? Like, what do you want to drink?" And like,
yeah.
I've tried like the Olipop things that are like the like healthy soda things. I don't like sparkling water. So like, I usually just always tend to go back to like Gatorade.
Mhm.
And like, I just like noticed that there's not that much like, I guess, drinks that are not soda heavy in like
Yeah,
sugar, which is interesting because I feel like maybe there is, it's just like I don't like me not liking like sparkling water takes out a lot of it, like those
yeah,
poppy and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just feel like there should be something else. Like so I've just been drinking a lot of water.
good.
Like I don't know what
Well,
else
I guess
to
that's good.
do. Yeah, I guess that's good, but it's just kind of interesting that like you don't really have that many options when you kind of cut
Yeah,
out like soda out of your diet.
true. Like for me personally, I've never really been a big soda drinker for as long as I can remember. I think since high school, but um natives, I don't know, like not to stereotype or anything, but they always have like soda, right? And drinks. And when our dad came to visit, he's like, "So what do you have to drink?" And I was like, "Oh my God." Like we don't actually buy like drinks like that, like soda and stuff. We're just like water drinkers, or like we'll have our tea and our caffeine basically. It's water or caffeine. That's kind of what it is. So that was also, I was talking to Jess and I was like, I totally forgot like people drink other things besides caffeine and water.
That's what, did you go get him soda?
No, I didn't. I mean, I
Oh.
bought him one when I went to the store, but
Oh.
I was
I
limiting
literally
him.
when he came, I was telling AJ, I was like, "We gotta like, dad's gonna want this." So he's like, "That's good because you never drink it," and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's a good thing too, like, when there's only one person drinking soda in the house. Like, soda nowadays is so expensive than what it used to be that,
Yeah,
like, we don't have to, like, buy it as often, I guess. So, I guess that's a good thing. But
true. Anyways, what about school wise? Like, did you have any resolutions for school or like any goals besides, I guess, finishing?
yeah, I think, like, it's very, like, specific to, like, my MCAT stuff. So, like, um, I think, like, being out of school, like, I'm nervous because this is, like, gonna be the first time that in my whole life that I've never been, like, in school. And obviously the plan is to, like, go back to school, but, I'm, like, kinda nervous about, I guess, my like, this is gonna sound awful, but, like, my brain just, like, shutting down.
Oh my God.
So, like, I one of my New Year's resolutions is to, like, find ways to continue to learn. So,
Mm,
like, I don't know, like, obviously, like, I try to read books, like, I I'm reading a book right now, but like I
Yeah.
guess more of like in the sense of like classes or like,
Mhm.
in that realm. So I think I'm trying to figure out like a way to do that.
Mhm.
And I guess we'll see how that goes. I obviously MCAT studying is like a huge portion of like what I plan to do over the next
Yeah.
2 years of my gap year. So I think just trying to really figure out how to manage that and have self-discipline because
Yeah.
you really don't nobody's forcing you to study for the MCAT. It's
Yes.
really on your own. So I think
Yeah.
that's something, I guess it's like kind of a New Year's resolution, kind of not. I think it's just more of
Mhm.
like figuring that out and how that looks like,
Mhm.
without having somebody behind me telling me like, "Oh, you need
Sure.
to do this." So, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I have a coworker and she's an engineer, like went to school for engineering. And she's in the same boat where like she's working right now, but she's studying for the engineering exam. I don't know, I forget what it's called, but um like it seems like it's a lot of discipline to be able to like sit there and I periodically check in on her too and I'm like, so like are you ready to take your exam? And she's like, so I can see like how hard that would be. Um to have, especially for an exam, because that's like
Yeah.
a big one. I actually just had this conversation too with my one of my well, actually all of my coworkers. They're younger, so I met them in the program that I was in. So one of them was like congratulating me on getting close to finishing my degree, and she was like, I can't even imagine going back to school yet, or she's like, or having to learn things. And I was kind of like thinking about that, and I think that just personally, I like to learn because she was like, I don't have the capacity for that. But like me personally, like I go home, I read, I do my homework, and I learn in that realm. And I go to work and I like to learn there too. Like I'll take courses throughout my day. And I'm just continuously like in this motion of learning new things. And I didn't realize that some people don't like to do that. So
Yeah.
I think maybe I'm blessed because I've always kind of been the type to learn things. And sometimes I'm bored. Like sometimes on my weekend, if I have nothing to do, I'll like put on a YouTube video and like how to make an app, and I'll just like follow along in my free time and learn how to code and make this random app. But
That's
yeah.
fun. That's really
Yeah. See,
fun.
I mean, I think there's ways you can find.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, even, like, specifically for the MCAT, like, you can buy, like, like, from different companies
A
that help
course. Yeah.
yeah, and they kinda, like you follow through it, and they, like, tell you, "Oh, like, you're learning this subject," and provide, like,
Yeah.
resources and stuff like that, so there's options there, obviously, like, finance, like, they're super
Yeah.
expensive. MCAT, I don't know why, they just we need more doctors, but they're making the MCAT so expensive, like, make it make
Right.
sense, but, like, things like that, and, like, there's videos, people make, like, videos about it, so I believe there's resources out there, I think it's just,
Mhm.
again, like, forcing myself to, like, "Oh, like, you need to sit down and, like and do it," so
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I think that's another thing too, like with how you said it's like expensive. I've kind of been thinking about that recently, and I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and they were just kind of talking about, the best thing you can really invest in is yourself. So I think my mentality too is like now within the past, I would say like 2 years, I've actually spent money on courses like that. I did one on streetwear, so like I learned, how to make a like what are they called, a tech design, like the template for clothing and like how to market it and the history of streetwear. And I've like also signed up for like conferences like the TED Talk. And I just recently signed up for Aspire. So like spending that money on things like that and certifications, I think now I'm learning that that's okay. And I think it's good, but something that I wasn't really used to is um, making that investment in myself, I guess, in that aspect.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I know, like, when I took the GRE, like, there's resources out there where people you can apply for funding and, like, they'll pay for it for you. So, like, there's
Yeah,
things like that, obviously, like, that
true.
are out there. Like, I know I did, like, a fellowship, and they, like, were able to, like, help me, like, keep funding. Like, I have, like, the Princeton
Mhm.
books, and then it had, like, it had the online portal, so, like, you could follow it and use, like, the Princeton books, and so there's,
Yeah,
like I found ways to, like, obviously, like, kinda, like, cover that portion of it, which is
true.
nice. So, like, if people out there, if you're looking for those opportunities, there's out there, it's worth applying. Some people don't even apply for them sometimes, so, like, the
Yeah.
chances are is you'll get them for the
Yeah.
most part. But that's always a nice tip. I think that not a lot of people know that you can usually get those things covered for.
True. Or a discount. Because I actually did that too with that streetwear one. And I would say, like, don't be afraid to even just put in an inquiry, like, yeah, sometimes it kind of sucks because they market you, but you can always get out of those, unsubscribe. But some things that I'm actually interested, I will like put in my information. And that was that streetwear one. And I seen the price. Once they sent me information, I was like, oh, like this is kind of expensive. So I didn't do anything. But as time went on, they actually reached out to me and they were like, hey, like, do you need a scholarship? Like, if we have scholarships
Mm.
available, you can apply for this. So I ended up like writing a little story about myself, and I submitted it, and they gave me like more than a 50% discount. So I only ended up paying like $300 for the whole thing, which was
Oh,
originally like
wow.
600, 700. Yeah.
That's cool.
So,
That's cool.
so I mean, if I didn't put in that inquiry, they would have never like gave me that opportunity. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And I see like some, I don't know if you have YouTubers like that too, but they make courses, like that's kind of
Mhm.
what YouTubers usually get into. And there are some that I'm actually like, maybe I kind of want to like see what it's about. Um, and but I've yet to like do an actual YouTubers course, but there are some that catch my eye.
Yeah, I thought about doing one. There's this I think he's in his last year of medical school, but he makes like videos about going to medical school, and like
Yeah.
he actually has like his own like it's not like necessarily like a tutoring, but like you can if you want, but he just
Yeah.
like has like courses and stuff like that, and that was something I kind of like looked into, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can always make your own course.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I was telling one of my friends because she's actually studying for the MCAT right now. And I was like asking her, like, oh, like, have you made like your own study schedule and stuff like that? Because I had made one a while back when I was planning on only taking one gap year. And
Mhm.
so I like sent it to her. She's like, oh, this is like really nice. And I was like, yeah, like, so hopefully one day maybe I'll get to the point where I'm a little bit more tech savvy in the sense of like being able to
Oh my God.
be a
Don't
little
get me
more
started on that.
creativity. So but yeah, so that's fun. I'm excited. Hopefully, cheers to learning.
True. Speaking of that, so like we're kind of wrapping up our graduate studies, right? Would you say that it was what you expected?
Yes and no. I feel like obviously like I did so for just a reminder, I'm a master's student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I'm in the exercise and sports science realm with a concentration in exercise physiology. So super STEM heavy, very research heavy. So like that's kind of what I expected. And obviously like learning more about exercise physiology was like my main goal. And I feel like I did get that portion of it out of it. I feel like the structure of grad school and I guess like just higher education overall, that's something I didn't it wasn't what I expected, and both like negative and positive, like, it's just it was obviously being like a first gen too, like you don't really have that
Yeah.
insight and each grad program is different. So yeah, no, I guess. How about you?
um Yeah, I guess you're right. Yes and no. Personally, like going in, I've learned what I was expecting to learn out of my master's program. And then for more context, I'm studying information and communication technology, and my emphasis is in software design and programming. But yeah, so I mean, with that, like I've learned what I wanted to. I was looking to, learn a little bit more about the technical aspect. And I think that it did a really good job of teaching that, but I would say grad school was a lot easier than I expected it to be. It was definitely that discipline, and also it could have been because I chose to do it online, rather than going in person. But I did have to, make sure that I was reading the readings and kind of like doing my part in like exploring those topics outside of just the coursework that I was given. And luckily, I have a job that's in the field. So it was nice to be able to have those people to talk with about some of the topics I was learning and see how that actually translates into the real world. So, yes, I learned what I needed to. And I think that I'm excited and happy that I actually went and continued because now I'm almost done and now I technically don't ever have to go to school ever again.
Yeah, no, I like completely agree with that. I don't know about easy, but like it definitely was like when so we're like currently interviewing candidates for the next year,
Mhm.
and like obviously they always like ask questions about like, what's grad school life, and I think like the biggest thing and like the number one thing I always tell like them is like it is very different from undergrad in the sense that it's really based on you. Like
Yeah.
what you like you do what you want, and okay, not like that, but like you get what you want out of it, and what you make of it is all dependent on yourself. So like yeah, like I feel like I didn't take as much coursework as I did in my undergrad. Which again was nice because you didn't have like as much homework on,
Mhm.
the back end of it, but there was a lot of readings, and like the readings were most of the time optional, but
Yeah.
doing the readings is the only way you should really be learning, I guess, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it I think that's the biggest thing I always tell like our candidates is that it's a lot of discipline. You make what you want. You make
Yeah.
what is that saying?
You
You make
make
what you want out of it.
you
You get
get
what you want out of it, basically. So, and I think, and I think that's like something they don't really tell you when you go into a grad program is like how much it's really dependent on yourself. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
100% agree that, there's, I had a lot more like free time. I had a lot
Mhm.
more like moments to work on my own. And like everybody in grad school is working on something different. Like
Yeah.
even my lab mate
True.
is working on something very different compared to what I am.
So you can't really
And
rely on them like
exactly. Yeah.
in every other schooling.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's true.
I think that was the biggest thing for me at like transitioning to grad school. And I feel like I
Mhm.
struggled with it at first, but like obviously, like, the more you're in it, you kind of like realize that, like, oh, like maybe I should be doing the readings because, that helps me. And it's also a different form of learning. I think I also kind of realize is that like it's not like straight from the textbook reading kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It's more of like experience and more hands-on, at least for me.
Mhm.
So I like that. I think obviously I'm a very like visual and like hands-on learner. So like I liked it.
Mhm.
But again, it was a very big like transition from undergrad to grad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. I think the experience part also kind of speaks a lot in grad school because like for me, I work full time and I'm doing my masters and I feel like a lot of my classmates in my program are kind of in the same boat, but we also have like that few who are kind of like you, just continue like straight out of college or high school, college and grad school. And you can tell a lot in the difference of like our discussions and such. So like for me personally, I have a lot more like experience that I can kind of relate to and describe, and it's a little bit different than them who are kind of in your realm where they're just talking the like tech from the text, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think personally for me, it was kind of good that I've continued on like into my actual kind of like industry field that I wanted to get into, and so that it's really helped solidify the knowledge that I'm getting out of my master's program.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like also something that I've noticed is that everybody's reason for doing a master's is so different.
Yeah.
Like for me, like I used it as a stepping stone to go to med school. And I have like cohort members that are, interested in PT school or a PhD
Yeah.
route, or even just going straight into like industry and working, doing research for big businesses and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's always interesting to see, like, I guess that portion of it because,
Sure.
every like you can literally do whatever you
Yeah.
want. And after that, so that was interesting for me.
Yeah. No, and I see that also. Like I have some classmates who are almost like 70 years old and they're just like taking classes to get a certificate for some random reason. And I'm like, why are you doing this? But I
Yeah.
also see people like myself, like personally for me, it was my entryway into the technology because I don't have a computer science degree like a lot of my people that I work with do. So like getting this master's was part of me kind of getting that foundational knowledge that I need to get into that. But I think that added with experience kind of helped out a lot. Um, but I also see people who are completely transitioning, you know, been in their job for 20 years and they're like, I want to get into technology now. So they're like taking a certificate or getting their master's in something completely different than what they are. Um, but I think also, you know, it's good for a raise. If you're in your job and you've been there for a while, like a master's program can actually help with um, getting your income increased up. And it's nice because I mean, luckily I have a lot of support from my manager. So like, and a lot of people at my work, so they're like, you know, you can actually leverage that and giving me that information because I would have never actually tried.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I hear about it, but like, you know, that part of me is kind of scared. But I guess if you just ask, you know, you may receive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And like compared to undergrad, I don't know about you, but like I feel like these years flew by. Like
true. Yes, I agree.
it went by so fast. And to think that like this would have been half of like a bachelor's. But I
Hmm.
literally, and maybe it's because I was like in COVID time and that kind of like put a like, you know, stop on it. But I just feel like these years just flew by. And I also feel like in that small amount of time that I grew so much, like
Yeah.
professionally, but like as like my own individual, which is really interesting to see how like that could happen. And I don't know if I would have been able to like achieve that without, you know, doing a grad program.
Hmm.
Maybe I could have, but like, I don't know. I couldn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's why they say, you know, getting a master's counts as, I think it's like 2 years of experience or something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know how they have like job requirements and it'd be like 5 years experience. Sometimes the companies will utilize your master's degree as a certain amount of years equivalent to, so that you still fit the criteria even though you don't have all those years of experience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. I'm in yeah, you obviously know, job applying mode, so glad to see that out there.
Yeah. So I mean, don't shy away from some of those like year requirements because your degree might actually help you leverage that.
Interesting.
Um yeah. So here's a random question. Did you make any friends while you were in your grad school?
I did. I got lucky. I will say, like, I wasn't obviously, like, I didn't go to grad school to, like, make friends. Probably, like, you know, that's sometimes the reason you do, like, a college or undergrad is, you
True.
know, to make friends. So, like, I honestly didn't, like, expect to come into my program, like, making a really close friend, and I did. So my lab mate, Key, shout out to you, Key, you watching this. I think that like we talk about this all the time that like it would have been so different for us if we weren't there with each other. And
Yeah.
like just like for background information, our lab is fairly new. So our advisor, that was like her first year, like even like being an assistant professor there, having her own lab, starting kind of like her work as like an independent researcher. So like I feel like that kind of made us like bond closer because like we literally when we got there, we walked into the lab and there was literally like a bike and two desks, chairs, and literally I kid you not like five carts to like move stuff. And I guess like it had been previously used as like a storage room. So like to this day, those freaking carts still show up outside of our door because like nobody knows where to put them. And
Nobody
so
knows you're
some
in there.
yeah, nobody knows we're in here there. So like literally I'll like turn a corner, I'm like, what are you doing back here? Like this is not where you belong anymore. So
Oh
like
my
I
god.
feel like that kind of like made our bond a little bit closer. So I did make friends. I think that um again, like it was a good experience for both of us. And then even just like my cohort too, like we all come from very different backgrounds, different states. And I feel like
Mhm.
as close as we could have got with not like working directly with each other, we got pretty close. And I'm happy to, you know, report that I think I made friends.
That's awesome. That, you know, That's another thing about grad school is, like, in undergrad, no matter what, your class is gonna be huge, right? Even if you go to a small college, like, there are only so many degrees and there's so many people trying to get that same degree. But in grad school, I feel like it's more specialized, so that kinda makes it a little bit smaller. But also, there's not a lot of people because I can't tell you, like, what the rate of people getting master's degrees is, but I'm sure it's not as high as bachelor's, you know? So,
Yeah.
like, that was the nice thing is because these people intentionally wanna be there, you know?
Yeah.
So, I think that was one thing that I truly enjoyed and how I was able to connect a lot more than undergrad because these people wanted to be there. There weren't you never I mean, well, you still ended up with some pretty shitty groups, but, like, it was
There's similar
a little
interests
bit better.
already. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
There's
little
already, like, a
better.
similar interest level, so, like, you're
Yeah.
bound to, like, at least enjoy each other. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've made a couple I wouldn't say friends, but, like, good people to, like, know. It
Companions.
companions. One of them was one of my instructors, actually. It's funny because I had already known we worked at the same company, but, you know, my company's pretty big. I think there's, like, plus 10,000 employees, so, I mean, the odds of me knowing him that well, I didn't think was that high. But, we had it was kind of like a welcome back to the office celebration going on. And I sat down at this table and I was eating my food, which is why I was there to get the food. But this guy comes and literally sits right next to me. And I look at his name tag because we had to have name tags. And his name was on his name tag. And I was like, oh my God, that's my professor. So we were talking a little bit and I asked him, I was like, hey, like, do you teach at DU where I go to school? And he was like, I do. And I was like, I was in your class. Like, literally, it just ended maybe 2 weeks before I sat by him. And he was like, I remember you. And he was like, I knew you were like, because my discussions were very like specific to utilities. And I think he kind of probably caught on to that too. And like we talked for a good hour or so. And when he left, he was like, hey, you know, like if you ever want to talk or if you ever need anything, like reach out to me. So that was a really nice connection to have. And I was like, wow, well, like what are the odds? My professor
Yeah.
is now my colleague and coworker, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah. And now like I think I honestly just kind of got lucky with going to school here. I got into the program here in Denver before I even decided to move to Denver. I was just going to do it online. But now one of the interns that got hired in our company and for one of the previous teams I worked for, we're classmates, like we're in the same like program. And I was snooping around on the org chart one day and I seen her name. And I like reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, I seen you got an internship. Like I work here." And so that's been an awesome connection also to make and so it's
That's
cool. I
cool.
like it. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Props to you because I feel like going online, like, that's a big difference than, like, being in person. Like, obviously, like,
Yeah.
I see these people, we have classes together, like, so, like, that I feel like that takes a little bit more work, like, on your end to be able to, like, reach out and be like, "Hey, like, we're in class together," like, where, like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, not forced, but, like, we're there together
Like
because we
kind of
have to be
forced.
there. Yeah, we have to be there, so, we
Yeah.
had to have interacted, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Props to you.
You know, one thing I would say is LinkedIn. I've leveraged LinkedIn a lot in my past 2 years. And um, another example of that is when I first started my program, I had a classmate and I knew she like lived in Denver area, but we went our whole like program not in the same classes. And then it just so happened our last two classes were taken together and we were like a pretty good group and we kind of got along. So I reached out to her on LinkedIn because I remembered she added me on there, and I was like, "Hey, we're taking our capstone together and this class," and so now we like text and we're like more exchanging papers, and it's kind of nice to have just someone that is again on the same level, like you were saying, like we're just same interests, same motivation, and we're helping each other out. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's, like,
LinkedIn.
that's cool because I feel like, my cohort provided that same, like, support for each other,
Hmm.
like, after class or even after exam, we'll be like,
Yeah,
"Guys," like, you have that recap of, like, our own problems and whatever. So, like, I feel like that's cool. I'm glad that you had that experience.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, props to LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. And like you said, I've definitely made like a lot more connections. And the cool thing about my like program too is that like my ultimate goal is to be an orthopedic surgeon in sports medicine, hence the exercise and sports science. But because so exercise physiology is just like a portion of exercise and sports science. So um the rest of the department of master students, we also work with athletic trainers, and then we also work with sports administration, all very different realms. Like you got clinical research and like the business part of it. And I feel like LinkedIn, like that, just making those connections, because we're obviously not like as
Mhm.
close as my ex phys group is.
Mhm.
But like just to think like in the future, athletic trainers, like sports admin, like those would be like really good groups to like be in contact with in like
Yeah.
my career. So like I feel like that was the other cool thing for like my specific grad program, is that like I was able to already kind of make connections within other fields without
Mhm.
having to like do that
True.
work, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. I kind of so with the career launch program, the program I got hired in after my undergrad was like a entry level targeted toward like recent graduates. So we have like this cohort system with other people who we all got hired with, but we all don't go into the same position. It's a rotational program. So they get to go wherever they want to. And that's one thing that I really like too, is because am really close with a lot of people who all have different interests. So like I
Mm.
have some like friends, I would call them, that are like trying to get into careers in finance or supply chain or, like even more into the energy, like sustainable energy and getting more into that actual aspect. So I think that's helped me like be able to again build that connection of people in different areas. And I always kind of joke around with some people because I'm like, all right, when we make our startup, like we're gonna all get back together at one point.
That's cool.
Yeah. I
Also
think
kind
that's
of
a
like,
nice thing with technology too, because there are so many aspects of technology. Like there's front end developers, there's back end, there's like, just like me, like a cloud, subject matter expert in cloud. Like, so if everyone has their own focus, eventually, you can kind of get together and create something, or there's just more knowledge, I guess, variety.
yeah, yeah. That's always nice because, you know, having somebody like the way I see it, because like obviously again, like I'm in research right now. So it's cool because a couple of our PhD students, um, they recently, so one had left back across seas, and one is still at UNC finishing up. But they recently put out a journal article, and they collaborated, and it was so cool to see that like even though they're not directly working with each other, they like teamed up to do this like journal article that is like in the realm of like women in sports. And like
Hmm.
obviously like that's like a really big, like there's not a lot of research in for women specifically in like
Hmm.
the exercise physiology realm. So that was really cool to see that like that even after that they were able to still like produce work together. And like I don't know, it's just kind of like I don't know, like cool to see that they were able to still do that. And I hope that's the goal. And it sounds like very similar to like that, like maybe one day you guys will like come out with a cool journal article.
Right. True. Very true. That's funny. Um, so we're almost coming up on time, but I have one last question. So since we're almost ending our programs, what is one thing you're looking forward to in the next, let's say, 4 months, and then one thing you're looking forward to in the next year?
4 months, so that's like what, March,
It
April,
should be
May, June.
halfway through the year. Yeah.
Obviously graduation for sure. Big thing. So like with my specific program, I do a thesis. And so that's what I've been working on the past like 2 years since I've been here. So I'm really excited to see that come to life. It is in the Native American population, and it's obviously like a stepping stone because again, like minorities, specifically Native Americans, there's no research at all, little to none, in the exercise physiology realm. So to be able to like start that and like continue it, because that's the goal, is to be able to keep it going even after I graduate. Uh,
Mhm.
So I'm really excited to see that come to life, and you guys will probably hear more once, I'm completing it and it's out there for the world to see. But I think that's the biggest thing that I'm excited to see, because I feel like with it being not only within like specific tribes but the whole nation,
Yeah.
I hope it does what I intended it to do, and I think it's just like really exciting. And then, like, to see that like that's something I created, that's something I
Yeah.
did. It's still like even just mind blowing for me to like comprehend that I would have done my own research and kind of started that path. And
Yeah.
I took a liking to research, so hopefully maybe I can continue to stay in that realm and help create more work in that. So that's definitely like the biggest thing I'm excited for within the like next couple of months.
Yeah.
But in the year, uh got lots of things going on this year, surprisingly. So people that don't know, I am getting married in this year, so I'm definitely looking forward to like that and how that plays out. um Lots of planning on that end too. I'm also excited just to see like what else I do. And, things could look a lot different for myself. Like I could have a better idea of going to med school and what that looks like. So figuring out where I'm going to live in the next like 2 years. So that's exciting.
Literally.
Literally where I'm going to live. So I just think it's such a changing point in my life, and it's like me becoming an adult. um, so
Oh,
that's super exciting to see like all that big stuff coming, because again, like it doesn't come too often, I guess.
yeah.
So like last time I experienced that was
True.
graduating from undergrad to
It's
like grad program. So that stuff, like knowing that is so exciting to see. And I guess like hopefully figuring that out, I'm set for the rest of life. Is really after that.
yeah, it's kinda like the beginning of the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. Yeah. So that's
True.
lots of changing, lots of big news, hopefully, and lots of
Yeah.
probably emotions in the next couple of like year or 2 years. So, um, it's crazy. It's a good time. How
Nice.
about you? What are you looking for in the 4 months to a year?
I guess that's kind of honestly similar. Like, I within the next couple months, I think my biggest thing is just obviously wrapping up this degree, but also I think just continuing to see where I can go in my career, like in work. I actually really like what I'm doing right now. So I think I've been having that little bit more motivation and just, I guess, that more energy because I know I'm almost time to completing my degree. So I'm like able to focus on other things now. Like I put a lot of focus on school right now, but now I'm like, okay, so how am I going to develop myself, in my career and where do I aspire to be next? I think that's kind of the mentality that I had before I decided to go back to school. So I kind of want to get back into that and like figuring out what my next goal is. That's
Yeah.
always a fun thing to do. And like I have 5 more weeks of my program. So I'm like really close to being done. Um, and then I think in the next year, my biggest thing is probably just hmm, seeing what I can do with my extra time.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of those who may not know me, I'm very like entrepreneur mindset, and I've had like so many business ideas that I've had forever. And not saying I couldn't do it back then, but I think now when I have time, now I'm like more financially stable, so I can actually again invest in myself and invest in those endeavors that I kind of wanted to a while back, but now it can kind of be more like self-made. And I think I just kind of set a good foundation for myself. I've worked really hard to get where I am now. So now I'm like, okay, let's see if I can do one of these ideas that I've always wanted to do. And my biggest goal has just always kind of been to not necessarily completely work for myself, but have my own personal income streams, like so where I'm not so reliant on working for other people, aka having a normal job. But I just want to, again, I guess it just goes back more to financial like stability and freedom of just
Yeah.
having my own thing going. So hopefully I can get put some more effort and time and get into the things that I've kind of put off as I went to school. And yeah.
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 That's awesome.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
experiences, putting your skills to
Yeah.
use. That's
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, like people don't see it till you get to that point, but like, at that point, you have
Yeah.
the knowledge to do things now
Yeah. And
and
the
you have
people, as we talked about, the network.
exactly. So you have like this whole it's just really what you make of it now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could see how grad school is important and I'm again like I'm glad I did this and I'm happy I did it before going to med school because I feel like I learned a
Yeah.
lot about myself now
Yeah.
and I I'm still young, so I definitely have
Yeah.
like a lot to go. My
True.
birthday's coming up, so that's exciting.
So
Another
she's
year,
not that young as you think now.
another year to life. So
True.
that's crazy. I think
Yeah.
like more an emotional level for me and you. It's cool to see
True.
that how far we got, I guess, because
Yeah.
looking back on our past, we didn't.
And we're kind of like finishing together.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, we have a 5-year gap between us. So I took a 5-year break basically and then kind of started up when she started up. So now I get to still the shine, the limelight with her.
Yeah, and she still ended before me.
True. And I think that's what motivated me. I'm like, let me choose the shortest programs.
I gotta beat her by a couple months.
Stressing myself the one extra class to get done.
Literally
No.
by weeks, I'm pretty sure, like, maybe
Yeah.
a month at the most, but that's
Like
crazy,
our
so
like with undergrad, what were we like 4 weeks apart? 5,
yeah,
3,
like
5, something
3
like
or
that?
something like
Like a
that,
month.
yeah. So, she's still
Yeah.
taking the toll.
True. Well, you make everyone travel out of the state to get to you, so.
It's for the experience.
True.
Yeah, happy to this is
Yeah.
a good talk. I'm really, again, like I said, excited to see, I guess, like, where the podcast goes now that we'll both have a little bit more time,
Yeah.
hopefully a little bit more knowledge. So definitely stay tuned to Growin Up Podcast. Again, we won't leave y'all on leave y'all behind this time, but
On
hopefully you'll
red.
see it.
We
Yeah,
won't
we'll
leave you on red. And, like, we heard the people who asked us, "When's the next podcast coming out?" We got that so many times. So, you guys were the ones that literally made us get out of bed today and make
accountability.
sure we did this. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys who actually kept us on our feet with this. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, and also let us know if you like this content. Like, we love the feedback and we actually listen. And all right, well, I guess that's a wrap.
that's a wrap. Stay tuned. Check in onto Instagram for upcoming episodes and more content. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, and share this if you have someone who would be interested in hearing the things that we talked about. Feel free to share. We would really appreciate that.
And let's grow up together.
Oh my god! All right, bye.
Bye.